Welcome everyone to another spoiler warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are talking wrestling news and quite a bit of it. There are plenty of headlines to cover, including the big ones, Roman Reigns and Randy Orton. Randy Orton's return to Smackdown and whether or not he's committed to his role. Plans for CM Punk at WrestleMania. You will not be surprised to hear that I'm not going to be talking about Steve Austin here, apart from the lack of. Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley at risk of losing their spot, as has previously been mentioned. Drew McIntyre in his push and the issues that he's been having with it. AJ Styles returning, as we are of course expecting and has been already reported. There's a little section I've got on here which is literally just called Already Reported, where I look at the news that's out there at the moment, talk about what's going to happen and what I've already reported that's just hit the highlights. And then we're talking AEW, some changes that are going to be made to plenty of people there, and the fact that WWE might not be their first choice for leaving. So, let me know which piece of news you're most excited about. Who are you here to hear about? Let me know in the comments, and I'm sure you'll find people of a like mind interested in much the same. Pete, thank you very kindly for renewing your channel supporter status for a 12th month, one whole year. It has been quite a while and quite a ride. I'm very glad to have you, sir. Plenty of questions already in the chat. I'll go for a few of those and then I'll start to dive in to the news as we've got it. Spider Boss is asking about Bayley getting kicked out. You're asking about something that's going to happen tonight. I don't know what's going to happen tonight. Wiggly says, hi Tom. Am I hearing right that Ric Flair's offered to quit AEW due to fan backlash? More on that shortly. Michael, thank you kindly for renewing your subscription on Twitch for a 33rd month in a row. You are 3 months away from 3 years, and I do believe you are amongst the first to do it. You've basically been here since day one, and you never seem to be missing. Thank you very kindly for renewing that subscription. Good evening, Daniela. Wiggly says Cesaro did the BBC football prediction this week. That's pretty cool. Spiderboss says, is it true the behaviour clause in CM Punk's new deal is according to SRS? Spiderboss, I'll add that into the section where I say that I've already reported it. I in fact reported on Monday that there were several clauses that make CM Punk extremely easy to fire if he actually acts out. Mark says, hey Chat and Tom, hope you have had a good week. Looking forward to this show. Good to know, mate. Good to know. Plenty of names already popping up in the chat of people interested in certain individuals. Khalid says the Royal Rumble poster looks amazing. Looks alright, bit busy for me. Razar says, hello Tom, ready for some spoiler warning, and plenty of spoiler warning incoming. Daniela says, I'm especially here for the Viper. Mark says, any news on Gunter? Gunter was not in the headlines at the moment. I don't have any further news on him. James says, I don't think it's worth it for people to come to WWE from AEW. There's too many top people and too many mid-carders. Khalid says, Tom, will Randy Orton appear on both brands? More on that shortly. Kervin says, your thoughts about Britt Baker Twitter about AEW. You mean tweeting about AEW? Gonna need more information there, mate. Boss Pedal says, Rick offering to leave with TNA starting back next month. Coincidence? Yes. I like how you do that. Wiggly says, Cesaro was at Wembley this week. Cool. Razar says, is Brock going to be at the Rumble? Yes, he is. The plan is for Brock Lesnar to appear at the Royal Rumble and begin his storyline in the Royal Rumble. Personally, I'm leaning towards Gunter being the ideal option for him. One says, Maria May called out Mercedes money on Twitter as if that will change her mind. Some people know how to get people talking. Spiderboss says, Randy Orton and CM Punk indeed helped Raw's ratings on Monday. That was very much the plan, yes. KJ is picking on my appearance. Mate, what you doing? What you doing? Wiggly says, I keep asking, but when will we know about the next UK WWE PLE? Soon. Soon. As soon as they have something booked, they'll announce it. Nothing is formally booked just yet, but they're still talking to a number of different UK governments and UK councils to try and make it happen. Daniela says, Mackenzie Mitchell was released. Has anyone heard about this? She posted it herself. So, yeah. Khalid says, I hear Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre news. Very hyped. Spider-Man says, Britt Baker complained on Twitter that she hadn't had a promo on TV this year. Parrish also clarifies Baker posted on X saying she had 0 minutes of promo time, while saying MJF had 7 and Christian had 10, I believe. Well, to be fair, MJF and Christian doing wonderful things right now. Britt Baker is right to be aggrieved. Women have not had a lot of good opportunities in AEW recently, and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. That, for me, is a problem. Our first piece of news then is as regards Roman Reigns and plans for the Royal Rumble. There are rumblings, if you'll forgive the pun, that Randy Orton seems set to be the challenger. Now, I would say who's reporting this, but if you watch my video on Wednesday, you would know that that's something that I've been talking about. So I feel comfortable saying that I'm the source on this one, whether accidentally or otherwise. Roman Reigns needs new challengers. He would be able to work a slower style that suits Randy Orton, and it would also mean that they are launching a new year in spectacular fashion. The new series doesn't start until WrestleMania, but Triple H likes to get in there early, making sure that the big names are on display for the Rumble. Now that he has CM Punk and Randy Orton back, Randy Orton will be protected by having limited actual action, a couple of tag team matches and the like, but also working with people who are going to protect him. One of the easiest ways for someone to protect him is just not to ask too much of him and have him lay down quite a lot in the middle of the ring. Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns is something that was planned for a long time. A long time. We're talking almost 2 years putting this one together. It's taken that long to get to a point where it's actually happening. So it's nice to know that at least we can actually get back to it and probably quite enjoy it, because Randy Orton's one of those. He very much uplifts everything he's involved in. It'll be great to see him back. He will be on SmackDown tonight, and this is believed to be heading towards this moment. The Bloodline may have some revenge to get. Jey Uso versus Randy Orton is still potentially in the pipeline. There's still a little bit to sort out, some kinks to iron out there before we go further with it. But when it comes to Randy Orton, he's not fully committed to SmackDown at this juncture. CM Punk is likely fully committed on Raw, but Randy Orton can go back and forth. Triple H does not want anyone committing to a brand until the draft. That allows him the ability to maneuver and keep the ratings high. It's not impossible. On tonight's SmackDown, we see CM Punk. Let's catch up with the chat and see what people are saying. Welcome, Justin. Nice to see you. Kelly says, your stream gets me in a happy mood. Gets me in a happy mood too, to be fair. Christopher Clare says, does Damage Control turn on Bayley tonight or later? That would be a spoiler of what's going to happen tonight. You guys know I don't know what's going to happen on the night, so I can't say. I've shared my opinion on that a few times. Parrish says, is it fair to say WWE Women's Division has become one of the best, if not the best in wrestling? I think at this point, yes, they have become the best. When you consider the recent additions, TNA, or Impact as they were, used to be able to give them a very strong run for their money, but at the moment, WWE stretched out in front because they've got more than just the 4 horsewomen now. They've got Bianca at the top, they've got Rhea at the top, they've got talent top to bottom. Roger says, are you looking forward to Adam Copeland versus Christine Cage? Not really. I mean, I can't remember the last time I enjoyed an Edge match. I just can't. So Vic says, hello Tom, hope you're doing well. I am, thank you. Do you think with someone in AEW saying their problems like Britt and Jay White, would they be looking to leave? Jay White, that report came from PWTorch. It was not Jay White himself who expressed any annoyance when it comes to his overall booking. When it comes to looking to leave, stick around, because we will be talking about people planning to leave AEW a little bit later. In the headlines I did mention WWE unlikely to be their first choice. Moisey says, can't wait for Roman to drop the belt. You may still be waiting a little while. Michael says, heard you say AEW is still the most likely destination for Mercedes last week on stream. Do you think the gap between AEW and WWE is slim, or is AEW still more likely than WWE? It's hard to say at this point in time. From where I'm sitting, I still think there is a lot of goodwill between Mercedes and AEW. She's still not particularly happy with how she was used in the WWE, and that does include a little bit of Triple H too. A lot of people have come up recently and basically replaced her, and a lot of people are being pushed pretty hard right now, and it would be difficult for Mercedes to come in back to WWE as a big name. It would be very difficult to do that. When it comes to AEW, she'd walk in and she'd immediately be the first name on the sheet. She would be the top name in the women's division. So I do think that's of appeal, but she also still wants to work with New Japan. That does not work under a WWE contract. The dude says, hey Tom and chat, hope everyone's well. Will be great to finally have Roman versus Randy, the match we were supposed to get 2 SummerSlams ago. It would indeed. We've been waiting a long time for it. Selvig said, is Randy going to SmackDown and Punk going to Raw? As I've clarified, there is no actual commitment from anyone at this point in time. The main reason being that they just don't want to say this person's here and this person's there and limit their options before a draft. We're currently on 30 likes. 5 more get us to 35. We did manage to break at least a recent record on Monday, over 100 likes, reaching 110. And we saw as a result of that, over 800 views on the live show. So every like does count, and you can see the immediate impact. If you've not yet done so, please remember that thumbs up. Bailey says, when Mackenzie Mitchell announced her departure on Twitter, people thought this was the start of budget cuts. No one else seemed to be cut today. However, no one else has announced that they have been cut today. It just may be that the dirt sheets don't have all the information that they usually do. Kevin says, I'm still waiting for AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns for a long, long time. More on that shortly. Kelly says, evening Tom, on a freezing cold night. It is minus Celsius here in the UK. Not fun in any way, shape or form. And yes, Wiggly, it's pretty cold here. We are surrounded by ocean. Spider-Boss says, Randy Orton with the daddy is back line on Raw was funny. Wiggly says, Tom, to be honest, Edge versus Christian we had this years ago in WWE. Nobody really wants to see that again, except for all the people who are watching AEW in order to see that. Noob says, hello Tom, how you doing? Doing pretty well, thank you Noob, welcome to the show. Khalid said, to be honest, I would like if Randy Orton does appear on both brands. Again, I do kind of expect we will see CM Punk pop up backwards and forwards. You know, I just, that's kind of what I'm expecting. Razar, when it comes to Mercedes updates, there's a little bit, but nothing I haven't already reported. It is a section where I'll be confirming what other people have reported by pointing out that I've already reported it. It'll be fun, you'll enjoy it. Q43 says, via BWE, thank you for sourcing. Kairi Sane versus Bianca Belair is planned for SmackDown tonight. Daniela says, how is Randy versus Roman for the Rumble going to get a good build if Roman is hardly on SmackDown? Roman will be back shortly to SmackDown. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Yes, I will be doing a watch party. Sorry, guys. Michael says, appreciate you always being willing to answer anything. I never felt like I've had to walk on eggshells, and I appreciate you. Thank you, Michael. That's what I aim for. That's what I really try to do. I mean, there's always questions that are a little bit awkward. There's always times when I'm repeating myself. There's always questions where I'm really not sure. And you guys know I take the piss a little bit. I'm a sarcastic guy, you know. And sometimes it's just a case of no, even when there's a bit more to it, because I've answered it a few times already. But I do try and answer every question, or as many questions as I can, because I do feel that you're here to find out these things. So what kind of person would I be if I have news and don't share it? I appreciate that, Michael, because it tells me that I'm doing what I want to do well. Sean says, hello Tom, welcome Sean. Spider-Boss says, AEW almost forgot to censor when Adam Copeland dropped the F-bomb. Did they? Did they forget? Parrish says, if Mercedes is going to AEW just to be number one, is that not going to show her ego or create tension with other women in AEW if she doesn't do numbers? To be clear, All Ego is kind of the Mercedes money model. She is the CEO after all, she was the boss previously. She's there to get over and she's pretty good at it. As regards tension with other women, unfortunately at the moment there's a lot of things creating tension with other women because they're not being treated very well. Parrish says, personally she can go whenever she wants, just want to see less backstage BS rumours and start enjoying the product more. You and me both. I know that I am a wrestling news reporter, but still the amount of crap that you get subjected to in this field, it's ridiculous. Even as a fan just trying to decipher everything, it's very difficult. Wants to say, Tom, people assume it's RIP AEW because they won't get a TV deal. Let's wait and see whether or not they get a TV deal first. Thank you for the geography lecture, Wiggly. Sean says, according to Wrestling Observer, Punk versus Rollins and Rhodes versus Reigns are the planned main events for Mania. Again, going to put that into what I've already reported. And I mentioned this on Monday, and indeed a little bit on the actual Survivor Series watch party. I'll get to that in more detail. Dane says, do you get any dislikes on the stream? I can't see dislikes in my stats, but I guarantee you I do, yes. Quite a few every now and then. Every now and then I'll report something and people are like, no, I don't believe you. Even when it's right, and I get downvoted like 20%. It happens. Thankfully, even downvotes help the engagement of the stream. Hector says, afternoon Tom, hope you're having a great week. Did you happen to see the videos of Sanity reuniting at a recent Progress event? That faction for me is one of WWE's biggest blunders since I can remember. I still have Sanity merch, that's how much I liked them. They simply were not understood by Vince McMahon and terribly used on the main event scene. Danny says, there's your 35, Tom. Thank you very kindly, Danny, and thank you very kindly to all 36 of you who've so far hit like. 4 more gets us to 40. Please do continue. Kelvin says, right now, Ric Flair getting backlash for the promo at AEW. Ric Flair deserves backlash for pretty much everything he does, so I'll take it. Coot says, Cody is facing Dominic Mysterio on SmackDown. Do you see the Bloodline getting involved in this? Not necessarily, because there's a lot more they need to deal with, but the fact that Cody, who's on Raw, is spending a lot of time on SmackDown suggests they're going to cross paths again. Spider-Boss says, in a personal note, I would love to see Mercedes money in AEW. WWE always preferred other women instead of Mercedes, and in AEW, Mercedes would be the top girl. Boss Pedal says, is there a reason WWE haven't confirmed France's greatest son Baron Corbin for Backlash, or do they just hate huge ticket sales? You know WWE, ticket sales, not their strength. Jack says, Cody versus Dom is a dark match after SmackDown, not on SmackDown, so is Seth tonight. Thank you for the clarification, Jack. Rizal says, all this talk about returns and WWE being interested in so many free agents. What's going on with the NXT call-ups? There seems to be a lot of talent overdue, for one, and being forgotten. A lot of call-ups have been cancelled, as I've reported previously. Now, as regards all this talk about returns and WWE free agents, it's worth pointing out that the WWE over the last year have not actually brought many people in. They just brought relatively big names in. There is still people like Bron Breakker who definitely deserve a big opportunity, and that opportunity does not seem to be coming. So I do feel they need to focus a little more in-house as well. Zane says, do you enjoy Raw or SmackDown better? Raw for different reasons. I enjoy Raw better because I watch it without breaks the next morning. That's the main reason. SmackDown, I think, is a better show, though. Selvig says, which free agent do you think WWE would sign in future, not naming Mercedes Money or Julia? It depends when they become a free agent. There was interest in names like Will Ospreay, like Jay White. There was quite a lot of interest there. Personally, I'd be leaning towards Samoa Joe, but I'm no longer confident he would come back. Chris says, SmackDown's in Brooklyn tonight, and Raymond says, hello Tom, hope all is well. All doing very well. Thank you, Raymond. Already 76 people in here, already 38 likes, 2 more to 40. And we are doing particularly well when it comes to the overall channel. Is everyone having fun? So, next up, news on CM Punk. Not our top story this week. He will definitely have moments where he is in future. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins is indeed the plan at current for WrestleMania. I mentioned this during the Survivor Series watch party when CM Punk walked out, essentially as a way of confirming that I did indeed know something about what was going on there, and also on Monday when I went into a lot more detail as regards to plans for CM Punk. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins is, I'm not going to say locked in, because people abuse that phrase, and you always know where it comes from, but CM Punk versus Seth Rollins is a clear frontrunner for WrestleMania Night 1 main event. There are current no plans to involve Stone Cold Steve Austin in this particular setup, though I'm told that CM Punk would be happy to lose if it meant he got that match. This does mean Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, who were in a position of main eventing Night 1, look set to be bumped in favour of Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. The 2 World Championships main eventing, and this is also outside of the WWE's intended model for the last few years, which has been interrupted, of having a women's main event Night 1, a men's main event Night 2, a Raw main event Night 1, a SmackDown main event Night 2. Now, it's been a lot of bloodline and a lot of carnage. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. Not quite there as of yet. So there is still a lot to work out, and if you do want Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley to main event, make it known, but be aware that CM Punk fans may wholeheartedly disagree. What would you prefer to see as the main event for Night 1 of WrestleMania? CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, or Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley? No, Zane, I did not watch TNA IPWF, whatever that may be. Wiggly, my favourite game is actually, well, wrestling game, is actually WrestleMania 2000. It was the No Mercy engine. It wasn't quite as finessed as it was for No Mercy, but you also could literally work weekly up until WrestleMania. I always got beaten by Kane in the King of the Ring, and it derailed me and I never got a WrestleMania main event, but I had a great time. Boss Pedal says, I agree, you could call up the top 10 NXT stars tomorrow and still have a fantastic weekly NXT show. Many are long overdue their call-ups. Indeed, and many have been told repeatedly that their call-up is about to happen. Daniela says, hopefully it doesn't snow in the UK. It has, and it will. Spider-Boss says, one thing I would like to acknowledge is Tony Khan giving opportunities to young talents. Meanwhile, young talents in WWE still on NXT because there is no room on the main roster. There is also plenty of young talent, including, for example, Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio on the main roster as well. I wouldn't say there's no opportunity there. Noob suggests WWE may be interested in Camille from NWA. Khalid says CM Punk versus Seth Rollins would be a good match. Zane says, I watch Raw with no adverts. I know where you watch Raw on the internet. On what was BT Sport and is now Discovery Plus. Same way I always do. I pay for wrestling. It's actually an expense that I pay for using the efforts of this YouTube channel because it's technically a business expense. Leon says Seth honestly needs that big match. He feels very secondary right now, which is a pretty fair comment, I feel, Leon. The World Heavyweight Championship has never felt like the championship, and the addition of CM Punk could certainly help that. Khalid says maybe if they could do Rhea versus Becky Night 2, Roman Reigns will main event WrestleMania. Kevin says CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. Leon also wants Seth Punk. Wiggly says Punk versus Rollins. Punk has waited long enough for his WrestleMania main event. He would be main eventing Night 1. Roman Reigns will main event WrestleMania. Daniela says Punk versus Rollins. Moises says Punk and Seth. Noob says Punk versus Rollins. It is overwhelmingly in one side at this point. I always appreciate your opinions, guys. Spider-Boss says it's fair to acknowledge the women's WrestleMania 37 main event because this was the last time women main evented WrestleMania. The last time women main evented WrestleMania was WrestleMania 35. The last match of WrestleMania is the main event of WrestleMania. There is no Night 1 main event. Khalid says, I would like to see Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. It's a dream match for me. Mark says, I think Rhea deserved it, but the storyline that will come with CM Punk versus Seth will be epic. JJ says after the year she had, Becky deserves to main event, and having men main event both nights is not right. That is, of course, what happened this year as well. The dude also wants Punk versus Rollins. Brad says Punk Rollins for different reasons. Razar says I really wanted Becky versus Rhea to headline Night 1 of WrestleMania. Parrish says with Punk, Roman, Seth, Cody, Orton, maybe The Rock, hard to see women getting that spot, although they should, given that star power just seems unfair. I do get what you're saying, and I do feel Becky and Rhea are kind of the only ones who could compete. Charlotte's obviously a big name, but with no Ronda Rousey, certainly I think WWE will be more insular. Steve says, hi Tom, what was the most snow you remember getting in one go? 1 inch equals 2.5 centimetres. A couple of years ago I had to walk through Chorley to get to a competition that my kids were in, and I had to walk for about an hour and 15 minutes in snow that came up to about halfway to my knees. I don't know how long that is. I'm 5'10", so about halfway to my knees. Spider-Boss says the promos between CM Punk and Seth Rollins would be good. CM Punk knows how to get under Seth's skin. Yeah, and Seth knows how to get under CM Punk's skin. People don't realise that. Wiggler said, I might have asked already, but Tom, have you bought AEW tickets yet? Nope. Hector says, I think the one thing that bothers me about the leaked promo from Ric Flair that's supposed to be on Rampage is how it affects the women in the locker room. I'm not a female, but what I read definitely makes me feel uneasy, so I couldn't imagine how they feel. I did mention previously there was a lot of women in AEW who are not at all happy with Ric Flair in the company. Backwards says, in my opinion, I like the idea of Punk versus Seth. WrestleMania main event is the one that Seth has not done. He kind of has, but only as Heist of the Century. Kelvin says Rhea Ripley versus Becky Night 3 can happen. So Raw. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you all? Welcome Marcel. Barry says, no Night 1 main event, thank you Tom. Spider-Boss says, so since WrestleMania is a 2-night show, Night 1 counts as the main event? Nope. The main event of WrestleMania is Roman Reigns. It is a Night 2 main event. I know it's semantics, but there is only one main event of WrestleMania. KJ says maybe they can steal the War Game setup and put 2 rings. They can have Punk versus Rollins and Becky versus Rhea at the same time. That would be difficult to watch. Very difficult. Edward Brooks says, do you think Bayley will ever get a WrestleMania main event? I feel like the story would be there for this year over Rhea and Becky, but it seems like it's not in the cards for her. There was no intention for Bayley to be in a main event. She is likely to be in Night 2. Rizal says, I just don't think Punk deserves it. If it was anyone else, I wouldn't mind them getting the WrestleMania spot. Wiggly says, I haven't seen the latest promo. What has Flair said and done now, and why is he still around? Couldn't tell you. Justin says Punk versus Rollins, Becky Rhea open. Becky historically does open a lot of shows, so I do feel that's a good shout. Perry says 74 watching, but 23 likes. Come on, people, hit the thumbs up button. We do have 43 likes at the moment. 2 more guesses to 45. Can you do that? I believe you can. Will says, just seen Mackenzie Mitchell, NXT Backstage reporter released today. Weird, are they cutting costs again, Tom? More on that shortly. Backward says, we've got 5 feet of snow. Pete says, obviously being a member doesn't get rid of ads. Not bothered, to be honest. Did you get an ad? Did you get an ad, Pete? I thought he did. I genuinely thought he did. Spider-Boss says, I read on Wrestling Inc. Matt Hardy said it's frustrating the booking of the Hardys in AEW lately. More on that to come. More on that to come. Drew McIntyre. The WWE have been trying to push Drew McIntyre close to the World Heavyweight Championship with the intention of convincing him to sign a new deal. Drew McIntyre's main concern is not income. His main concern is championships, as I've previously reported and has been confirmed multiple times by multiple outlets since. Drew McIntyre is not particularly convinced with what the WWE are offering him, and that ultimately is having an impact on his interest in staying in the company. I don't necessarily blame him for that. Drew McIntyre is in a very strong position of being able to go pretty much wherever he wants. I believe the main reason he will likely sign a new WWE deal is because AEW is not of that much interest to him. So from where I'm sitting, Drew McIntyre will likely stay. Playpain, you have just missed the Becky and Rhea news. Pop back a little bit in the recording. Go back to about 20 past. Should be there. AJ Styles is returning shortly. There is a report from PWInsider. PWInsider have also reported that AJ Styles will be back several weeks ago, so we have to be careful with this one. That Gallows and Anderson will be at WWE Smackdown. AJ Styles has been ready to return for a little while. They're just waiting for the right storyline and the right moment. I don't think it's impossible that AJ Styles still gets a match with Roman Reigns, but it would be a Smackdown match. He does have some unfinished business with the Bloodline as well. So I think we could get a build towards Roman versus AJ on, for example, the New Year's episode of SmackDown, and then we continue the build to Roman versus Randy. But what I will say is that AJ Styles returning, he's walking into a company that has pushed him significantly down the card for LA Knight, for Kevin Owens, and for Randy Orton. Possibly also, let's be fair, for CM Punk, if CM Punk starts appearing on SmackDown. But we're also seeing Cody Rhodes starting to pop up a little more on SmackDown. So AJ Styles is lower down the card than he's been for a long time. Pardon me. Lower down the card than he's been for a long time. Then says, I wouldn't like to see Camille because WWE would not treat her as a top star like she is in NWA. Yep, no chance. Okay, plenty of people got an ad. I appreciate you guys letting me know. We haven't actually seen the dip that I would expect of an ad. The YouTube setup is slightly different now in that you click monetize and you have no further control over ads. You do have the ability on live shows to determine whether or not it auto runs ads. And the fact that we've had 1 in 30 minutes, that doesn't seem bad. I'd imagine it was skippable. Let me know if it wasn't. But I just want to make sure it doesn't come at a moment where I'm giving news. So actually, it should tell me on the screen, give me like a 1 minute warning before it runs an ad, so I can make sure I'm not necessarily talking about a piece of news. I'll be talking about the channel or, you know, getting likes and stuff like that. Some way to work it out, you know? Some way to work it out. But I appreciate you guys letting me know. For the sake of research, if you could keep letting me know when an ad comes through, I'd very much appreciate it. Moises says, I hope WWE doesn't blow this. They need to keep Drew. Kelvin says, what match is more interesting? LA Knight versus Logan Paul or AJ Styles versus Logan Paul? I'd imagine most fans at the moment would say LA Knight. Rizal says, what do you think is next for Judgment Day going into WrestleMania season? They do have tag team championship belts, and I imagine they're going to feature very strongly at the Royal Rumble. Spider-Boss says Becky Lynch versus Rhea would be fun, but Rhea's title reign hasn't been that good to get a WrestleMania main event. No, that's true. But Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley, I think, is fully deserving of it. Spider-Boss says Becky Lynch versus Rhea would be fun, but Rhea's title reign hasn't... I've already read that one. JJ says hopefully if Becky does re-sign, it's not a big contract. I've been wanting her in Hollywood for years. Yep. That is true. I get what you're saying. And I suspect that's exactly what's going to happen. Kervin says WrestleMania 40 Solo versus Randy Orton. That could be fun. That's a very good shout. Killy said, I'd like it if Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley opened night 1. Backward says, could you imagine AEW booking Drew McIntyre? I certainly don't think he'd get a lot of opportunities, I'll tell you that. Hector says, Tom, for context purposes, I sent you a DM on Twitter. I did see that on what exactly Flair said. I'd rather not put it in the chat. I appreciate you for that, Hector, and I'm also very nervous now. We have 47 likes and 83 people watching. 3 more gets us to 50 likes. 50 likes halfway through the actual show would be very much appreciated. So please do consider hitting that button for me. Play Pain says, oh man, I wanted Liv versus Rhea for WrestleMania or Liv versus Rhea versus Becky for WrestleMania. Your moment is unfortunately not coming. Backwards, I've already read that one. Khalid says it was a 10-minute advert. I found that unlikely. At the very least, it'd be skippable. Joey says, hey Tom, got any news on Raw TV deal? Who are the front runners? Now, this was asked before we actually started the show. I don't know on this one, to be honest. I don't have the connections within the actual TV companies. I know that BT Sport don't really exist anymore, so won't be placing bids for the UK deal, but it has been picked up by TNT Sports and they're pretty happy overall with what they're getting. When it comes to the US, I genuinely don't know, but the WWE are still eager to get some good old-fashioned Fox under the belt. They just think Fox viewers are more likely to be wrestling fans. Roger has got YouTube Premium. Good for you, Roger. Nice to hear it. Spider-Boss says, the only thing I hope about WWE is Cody doesn't get another match with Roman. Roman versus Cody 2 will be like when WWE did Cena versus The Rock back-to-back at WrestleMania. Chris says, good evening, Tom. Good evening, Chris. Nice to see you, mate. Will says, Sean Ross Sapp said Thunder Rosa is fine, ready to go for a while, but AEW aren't doing anything with her. What's going on there, Tom? So, last I heard on Thunder Rosa, firstly, appreciate Sean Ross Sapp confirming what I've already reported, that Thunder Rosa was good to go. I reported this back around the time of Wembley, when she actually flew out and was in attendance at Wembley. I was aware that she was there. Was able to get a couple of different sources on this one, and was able to report that, not that it had any real impact, but she was there. Now, when it comes to Thunder Rosa, there are still some things to work out. Regarding what's going on there, I suspect she may want out of the contract, but that's just my opinion. Fair enough, Chris, you enjoy your Subway. We did have, you want to call it a troll, but then they laugh at Bray Wyatt not coming back. That's not a troll, that's an arsehole. Joey says, is CM Punk going to be appearing on all brands? All brands might be a stretch. I do think we're going to see him spend some time on NXT, though. Parrish says, would you want Gunter as a Rumble winner or Money in the Bank winner, then cashing in at Berlin? I would love him as a Rumble winner, but I think Money in the Bank and then a Berlin cash-in would be better, because I do think if the main event of night 1 is going to be Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, I think Seth leaves with a championship, at which point Gunter with a cash-in. Yes, Chris, I 100% prefer 2-night WrestleManias. I don't like staying up until 7 in the morning. Pete's got the idea, saying a hi troll, bye troll. Marcel as well. Everyone say hi and bye to the troll that just came through. James says, Inside the Rope says, according to Brandon Thurston, there were a bunch of WWE releases. James, just to be clear, Brandon Thurston is the source there. Inside the Ropes are just repeating. Play Pain says, I get Becky versus Rhea is bigger, but Liv versus Rhea would have been so good for WrestleMania because of their history. Unfortunately, when it comes to WrestleMania, history doesn't really play into it. It tends to be about the advertisement. I think this is something that isn't really recognised too well. When it comes to WrestleMania, it's not about putting on a good show for fans who are already there. It's about advertising wrestling to get new viewers. Joey says, is it true Warner Brothers Media is interested in getting Raw? Not sure. Boss Pedal says, I think LA Knight is limiting himself. I'd like to see what he could accomplish during the daytime as LA afternoon. Oh, Spider-Boss says, who do you see as Logan Paul's first opponent for the US title? There's a couple of people I could see involved. I'd love to see Kevin Owens get that spot, I'll tell you that. Joey says, do you know if WWE will have interest in new star Camille when she's a free agent? I don't. Wiggly says, I don't think we'll ever go back to one-night WrestleManias. Nor do I. Stuart Ridley says, hi and bye, you pleb. Vijit says, hi troll, bye troll. Brad saying, hi troll, bye troll as well. Love you guys. Chris says, trolls equal free views. Yeah, pretty much. That's the thing. Troll came in, we're on 91 viewers. Sometimes they genuinely help. Entrollment means you leave. Joey says, why did QT Marshall get let go from AEW? He's not the only one, and he was asking for it. That sounds like a threat. No, but you know. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you kindly. I'm guessing you have two accounts, because otherwise you've liked and then unliked the video. Just point that out. We're going to a section now called Already Reported. This is one of those that I like to throw in every now and then when I have a momentary good run with things that I'm reporting being confirmed by others. Now, my name won't be mentioned in any of these reports because, you know, but I do like to essentially pat myself a little bit on the back, and it's also something that can make it very clear to trolls I know what I'm talking about. There is a report from Dave Meltzer that while under contract with AEW, CM Punk approached Triple H with the intention of asking him to sign a WWE deal that CM Punk could then use to get fired by AEW. I did already report this on Monday. When CM Punk did visit Monday Night Raw a couple of months ago, he did get a meeting with Triple H, and in that meeting, he did make it clear he was interested in returning. He also tried to make it clear that he was a changed man. Certainly, that is something that Triple H did believe. Already reported on Monday. There are reports now that TNA made big money, 7-figure offers to Will Ospreay and to CM Punk. There are no reports at this time that a big money offer was made to Mercedes. I can't imagine it'll be too long until that news gets out. Already reported 3 weeks ago, I think it was, TNA was looking to take the fight to AEW and attempt to overtake them. They were looking to sign Will Ospreay, CM Punk, potentially Mercedes money to try and get the names they needed to take them to the big time. Next up, the return of Mercedes money will not be taking place until the beginning of next year. I reported this several months ago. She is now back in the ring, back warming up, and back preparing for her in-ring return. It is not impossible that it happens just before the end of the year, but as I've said, I do not expect her to return until 2024. Already reported, already out there. Finally, there are cuts happening to the back office in WWE at the moment. I did report that more cuts were coming. The WWE did not cut the amount of money that they wanted, and they did not see the increase in income from the TV deals that they were looking for. The WWE disappointed with the amount of money that they were going to be getting, so they decided to do what they needed to do and cut more names. Mackenzie Mitchell, unfortunately, a victim of the latest round of cuts. Khalid says, hi troll, bye troll, get a life kid. Wiggly says, you know I'm missing the taking the piss out of the trolls fun over on Twitch, but that's good as well, peace and quiet. It does seem a lot more chill on Twitch, but ultimately, Twitch doesn't have discoverability, and that's why it seems so chill. It's also why, unfortunately, you tend not to grow there. Yon, you did miss the Becky Rhea news. By all means, just hit rewind. Go back about 20 minutes and you will find the Becky and Rhea news there. We currently have 5,429 subscribers. One more gets us to 5,430 and a brand new record. If you've not yet subscribed but you're considering it, please do take the moment now. Also, if you are a subscriber, please do check if you've hit the bell after hitting subscribe so that you can get notifications whenever we go live and whenever we upload a new video. We have a number of new videos coming, and we have started our regular programming, WTF Wrestling on Sundays and PLE Wednesdays on, you guessed it, Wednesdays. I started with my Royal Rumble 2024 match card predictions. That's already got about 400 views. Pretty happy with that overall. It will build momentum as I do them week in and week out. So, please do consider hitting subscribe and checking out the channel that we create things on. Spider-Boss says, I still remember WWE preferring Charlotte versus Ronda for WrestleMania 38 instead of Mercedes versus Charlotte, only because Ronda versus Charlotte was a marquee match for WWE, and that's what Charlotte wanted. Jason says, hey Tom and chat, Trolls are trash. Really, they are. You're not wrong. Marcel just says, yes. Joey says, do you think WWE will have interest in him for a backstage or coach role since he's friends with Cody? I'd imagine that's as regards QT Marshall. Being friends with Cody does not automatically qualify someone, and if they're letting people go from those positions, I found it unlikely at this point. Devin says, Mercedes has started training again. I'm so excited. Kervin says, do you think Drew McIntyre, Sheamus and AJ Styles have done everything in WWE? Yep. They've won everything they can. Spider-Boss says, Bayley's 2022 return was first reported by you. Mercedes Money News always appears first on spoiler warning. Appreciate that, Spider-Boss. I know that you got a lot of heat for pointing out the Bayley news that I'd reported when somebody else, Sean Rossap of Fightful, reported it a couple of months later. Barry says, if TNA wants to overtake AEW, they need a better network first. They will get a better network and be able to afford that. If they can get more viewers, they would need to bring more people in. Spiderboss says, Mercedes herself said on Cameo she'll return to wrestling next year. And I appreciate her confirming my report, as she has done in the past. Chris says, are these cuts just office cuts or will there be talent cuts coming too? I don't think it's impossible that there'll be talent cuts. They are looking to basically save as much money as they can so that they can afford big term contracts. Now, Dave Meltzer has already reported that WWE are offering higher contracts than they have in a very long time to convince wrestlers to re-sign. With the amount of money that they're needing to cut, I don't believe that to be true. Khalid says, Tom, I really hope Braun Strowman returns. We miss the monster among men. He will be returning relatively soon. I'd imagine it'll be around Royal Rumble time. Wiggly says, saying that, I can't remember how I discovered this channel in the first place, to be honest. Fair. I'd imagine Twitter, to be fair. Tristan says, yo Tom, do you have any news on when Jade Cargill is scheduled to make her WWE in-ring return? As I reported on Monday, Jade Cargill is back at the Performance Center, getting herself prepared for her in-ring debut. I'm looking at the Royal Rumble as the most likely time, depending on whether she hits all the marks that they're looking for. Roger says, Kevin Sullivan thinks the current WWE roster is the best it's ever been. Do you agree with Kevin Sullivan, Source Wrestling Inc.? Yeah, I genuinely think this is the best it's ever been. Joey says, do you know if Triple H is in contact with Mercedes for a Royal Rumble return? I previously reported Triple H and Mercedes Money are in constant contact. This is no different. Triple H does want to bring Mercedes back. I do think we're more likely to have it now than we were, but I still don't necessarily think it's a guarantee. Raymond says, hi Troll, bye Troll, hope you find a new hobby. Hector said, if the plan is for Punk versus Seth and Cody versus Roman, I think it would make the most sense to have Punk win the Rumble and Cody entering first at the Elimination Chamber, just taking a beating the whole time till he wins it and goes for Roman. Hector, if you've not already watched my match card predictions for the Royal Rumble, you may find a kindred spirit there. Thomas says, hi Tom, are you looking forward to SmackDown tonight? Who do you think will challenge Logan at the Rumble? I don't. I genuinely don't. Roger said, I've already read that. Boss Pedal says Monday Night Roller Hugh. That's a name. Chris says, does WWE not have too many main event faces? Nope. Sovik says, you're excited for GTA 6? I am actually. I still haven't finished GTA 5, but I spent a lot of time playing it online. Well, and I've covered this at some length. I don't know what is happening with Mercedes Money at this point in time. I've given you every information I possibly can. Martin says, hey Tom, do you know if Triple H still has any names of people he really wants to bring in? I'm always hoping for an Iconics return. And indeed, their name is still on the list. Spiderboss says, if WWE want to convince Drew to stay, they should give him the World Heavyweight title. Drew deserves to have a title run with fans in attendance. Well, if that's the case, CM Punk might not have wanted to come back. KJ says, I agree with the take of the current roster being the greatest. I said that after I've seen that stacked Rumble poster. We'll see you then, Wiggly. We are, of course, having a watch party tonight. Hope to see as many of you there as possible. Joey says, is it true the Good Brothers will be returning tonight? We did discuss that a little bit ago. By all means, they're back about 15 minutes. Tristan says, Tom, speaking of the Royal Rumble, is there a good chance Rob Van Dam enters? There is the same chance that there always is with Rob Van Dam. Cohen said a lot of people were disappointed with CM Punk's promo on Raw. Yeah, because everyone seemed to think it would be the most explosive thing in history. Tristan, I've reported on CM Punk's first rivalry multiple times at this point, including just at the beginning of this video. Zip it back to about 10 minutes past and all the information you're looking for will be there. Couple of things left to cover, all of which are related to AEW and TNA. There is talk of an AEW exodus warming up. The Hardys have now come out openly and said that they're not happy. Britt Baker isn't happy. It is not a storyline. The wrestlers are not happy. They're looking to create opportunities elsewhere. TNA, for its part, have been speaking with a number of different wrestlers about offering them a pretty big opportunity should they want to join the TNA model. They did miss out on Ospreay. They did miss out on Punk. There will be opportunities for more people to come in. So, TNA are causing a bit of a stir in that regard, even though they're keeping it under wraps, according to sources. Samoa Joe, for example, is someone that Triple H has been very interested in from the jump. He's been desperate to bring Joe back. Samoa Joe does not necessarily want to work in the same company as CM Punk. So Samoa Joe might well find himself looking at a TNA deal sooner rather than later. Now, I've got down here that Ric Flair is making enemies, but you guys already know what's going on with that one. It's Ric Flair. Of course he's making enemies. The guy is not capable of making friends. And the last thing I want to point out, Tony Khan listens to effectively only one person when it comes to creative and when it comes to the overall element of executive vice presidentdom. That being Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is the person that Tony Khan is leaning on the most, and there are people in AEW who are starting to believe that Daniel Bryan has too much power. Joey says next year's Royal Rumble feels really unpredictable. I like it. Boss Pedal says if Drew leaves, he will only come back stronger with more facial hair. This has been established. Spider Boss says when we could see Carlito versus Santos Escobar. We could see it tonight. I just don't think we're going to. Martin, Mr. Regal is currently still working on recruitment. Dane says, what was your favourite NXT Husky Harris match? Wouldn't know, never saw any. Spider-Boss says, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last good run of the Hardys was in TNA. I agree with that. Joey says, I thought Samoa Joe is friends with CM Punk. So you're asking if I want to confirm the report that I've just said. You're asking if I know what I'm saying? I'm not sure as to the question there. Thomas says, could you see any of the unhappy AEW stars going to WWE? I could see them wanting to. I don't necessarily see WWE wanting them. That's the issue. Khalid says, could you see the Hardy Boys making a WWE return? I could see them wanting to. I don't necessarily see the WWE wanting them. That's the issue. Joey, Tony Khan has been quietly releasing people for years now. I reported that at quite some length. It's funny because wrestling journalists always report everyone being released by WWE, but when it comes to AEW, they seem to get a pass. One says, AEW signed too many people. They do need to trim the roster, to be honest. Bailey says, is the Performance Center still the same priority for WWE? I have no idea what that question means, Bailey, to be honest. I'm not sure what you're saying. Joey, I did say that. Yeah. Hector says, the more backlash I see when it comes to Ric Flair makes me wonder if Flair coming to AEW is more a Tony Khan idea than a Sting idea. It was. Yep, reported that one previously in WTF Wrestling. Martin, not sure what you're meaning there. Who's after someone specific? Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Thomas says, if Britt Baker was available, surely WWE would go for her, as it would be more likely that they get Cole as well. There is... No, that's not how that works, guys. There is no connection whatsoever. When you get one person, that doesn't guarantee you another person. They can still happily live together. It's not really an issue. They just work in different places. Thank you guys for the confirmation. A skip ad as well. Brilliant. Stuart says advert. Advert from Khalid. From Brad. So not everyone. Not everyone. Interesting. Calvin says, do you see Ricky Starks in WWE? Again, I can see him wanting to be in WWE. I don't necessarily know if WWE want him. KJ says, wait, Tom was at it for unhappy names in AEW looking to leave, or will he cover it later? I don't have all sources in the world. There will be more. I don't know. Lucha says, how are you doing, Tom? Doing very well, thank you. Hope you are as well. Boss Pedal says, I think AEW does need to get rid of all the moaners. Okay. Doesn't necessarily mean that they can. Spider-Boss says, Brian Pillman Jr. leaving AEW went quite under the radar. WWE fired someone and wrestling media say it. You may not see that, Joey, but I report what I've been told. Hector says, Randy's being advertised for Smackdown. He's definitely crossing paths with The Bloodline, which was our lead story today. And Martin says, I was asking if Regal was... Gotcha. Asking if Regal was after someone specific. He's after a lot of people. Kairi Sane was initially the person that I said he's going hell for leather for her. That's not meaning that that's the only option. Perry says, I can see Hardy as Hall of Fame consideration, only WWE offer for them. There has been talk of a Jeff Hardy induction for a while now, not necessarily a Matt Hardy one though, which I think is very unfair and very strange. With 10 minutes to the hour, we are out of headlines and it seems like out of questions. If you haven't already, please do check out the PLE Wednesday video, which gives you quite a bit of information about what I'm expecting for the Royal Rumble and the Royal Rumble matches, including big moments for Randy Orton, for Rhea Ripley, and yes, for CM Punk. In the meantime, I will be live in just over 2 hours for a Smackdown watch party, so don't go too far. Until then, I've been Tom Colohue, you've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.